How's everybody doing?
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Hi, Patty.
I flew back into California last night, and I will tell you, it's quite depressing to watch that coming in the air.
The smoke, you mean?
Yeah. People are telling me I came home just in time to evacuate.
Great.
Lucky me.
I guess the East Coast is an option, huh?
Most definitely. It's not on fire. Oh, goodness. So I know today we still have a lot of questions about 3088 because it's so new to us. Just want to remind everybody that we do not have to disclose to the tenant the new Tenant Protection Act unless they're currently delinquent.
And I think it was the September 30th or the 28th was a date on that. Is that correct?
Correct, but you only want to notify them of that if they're delinquent. So if your tenants aren't behind, we don't want to tell them what those rules are, right? Let's not educate them.
Right. So, but if that was the case, say for example, you are delinquent, you don't notify them, so it just becomes null and void. Is that what happens?
Well, what happens is it's really hard for you to go forward and tell them that they still owe you 25% of the rent if you've never told them what the rules are.
Right. Right. Okay.
So if that makes sense, that's kind of how that works. How's everybody doing today? Are we ready for the state to open back up?
Yeah.
I heard a sigh. I know it's coming. The reason I know it's coming and that the state's going to open back up is 3088 tells us so. Remember in the beginning when all this happened, I kept saying, hurry up and do nothing. We don't have any laws. We don't have any rules. There's no structure yet. As it gets closer for time to the state to open up, we'll start to see laws change and things come into place. AB 3088 is a great example of that. So that being said, they're starting to implement the tools that tell me that there is light at the end of the tunnel and that we most likely will start to see things opening up, and we'll probably have a few more laws in place as well. Lots and lots of tenant protections during COVID, not a whole lot for the landlord. So something to think about. We need to make sure that our mortgages are going to be paid. We don't want everybody's worried about this big wall of evictions coming eventually. And my concern is that that big wall is actually a wall of foreclosures. So want to be careful of that and make sure that we have all of our I's dotted and our T's crossed. When you hear of a program that's helping landlords, go sign up for it yesterday. Don't wait till tomorrow because tomorrow it'll be gone. We can always back out before we sign and agree to anything because it's not to our terms, but we want to run like cockroaches with the lights coming on when a program is allowed for us owners, because they're few and far between is what I'm trying to say. They're not giving them out on street corners like they're giving tenant protections to. So we have to be a little more aggressive when those are released so that we make sure that we're included in them if need be. Anybody have anything they want to talk about?
I have just a comment to make about what we're talking about in the crystal ball and the forecaster and all this genie magical stuff and tea leaves and everything else. And just for the sake of opening up the idea. So you say, for example, it's in the future, right? The future could be mean possibly based on your experience, based on past bills, based on whatever we can use as part of the crystal ball. 15-day, 30-day, 45-day, 90-day. What kind of time frame? Just guessing. Yeah, I know. The crystal ball again.
But here's what I'm trying to say. In the very beginning, everybody's like, well, what's going to happen when we reopen? What's going to happen when we reopen? We don't know. The laws aren't in place yet. Now we're starting to see those laws take place. That tells me there is light at the end of the tunnel. When that comes, I have no idea. But what I'm trying to say is they're implementing laws so that we can start implementing process and procedure accordingly. So that shows me something's going on, okay? It's nobody telling me anything, it just makes sense, okay? I got a feeling that we'll be opening up gradually, and we'll see how it goes. But they're definitely putting laws in place to help structure that, which is a big red flag to say, hey, the end is near. It's not here yet, but it's coming.
Okay. Good enough. Thank you.
I mean, municipalities are still going to control. So one city might stay on lockdown, one might not. I mean,
Yeah.
This has never happened before. It's new to all of us. So all I'm saying is we're starting to see the rules coming in. We didn't have any before. Now we're starting to see the rules. So it's kind of setting the pace for things to open back up. Am I saying they'll open tomorrow? No way. But we are starting to see that.
There's light.
And then please note that we are still in a state of emergency. We're currently in a state of emergency with the new fires that are going on as well. So no rent increases over 10%, absolutely none, okay? Nothing over 10%. We don't want to be guilty of price gouging during a state of emergency that comes with a $10,000 fine and a jail sentence.
Patty, can we do, you just emailed me this morning and said we can't do rent increases anyways, is that correct?
I wouldn't do rent increases. I'm not advising anybody to do that. Listen to your legal counsel, but here's me talking to you. Remember, there's still this really big factor that we haven't heard from yet, and that would be the Department of Fair Housing. Could they say something right before we get lifted? Absolutely. But until we get lifted, we shouldn't be raising rents anyway. We have an order to shelter in place. So how are you raising the rent then? We're also in a state of emergency. So that's kind of cattywampus. So
it's not me. It's an owner who's pressuring me. And I'm like, dude, like, calm
I
down.
get it. And here's how I'd explain it to that owner. You know, a lot of lawsuits are going to come out of this because it's never happened before. We're going to have case law pave the road for how this is affecting us the next time we have a global pandemic. Do you want to be part of that case law? Because if you do, let's go ahead and raise the rent. If you don't want to be part of that case law and you want to watch what happens to somebody else and learn the easy way instead of the hard way, then we'll go ahead and wait. But I let them know. I mean, it's unethical. If they can't go back to work, how are we raising their rents? You know, it's unethical. And I'm like, come on, state, open up. I want to do some trade shows. I want to see my friends. I want to do some classes. I miss you guys.
And Patty, going back to the basics though, January 1st, we have the 5% state rent control anyways, right? And that's sort of the standard to raise rents.
Some people are exempt from that.
Right.
So the people that are exempt from AB 1482, which is the statewide rent control initiative, need to know that they can't raise over 10% while we're in a state of emergency. That comes with criminal charges and administrative fines starting at $10,000. In other words, instead of the tenants calling an attorney and then filing a lawsuit, they're going to call the cops, and the cops are either going to write you a ticket or take you to jail. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to wear orange, okay? Not for raising the rent. That's a little ridiculous, but it's what the law is. That's California Penal Code 396, subparagraph B. If anybody wants to know exactly what I'm talking about, it completely references price gouging during state of emergency, raising rents more than 10% from a governmental order. So we're there, folks. And with these fires going the way that they are, I don't see it ending anytime soon. And usually when they have a state of emergency, they can extend it with a governmental order. Usually the governor will extend a state of emergency for 6 months as an example. That means for 6 months, we can't raise the rent over 10%. We're still guilty of it. So although the state of emergency comes in 30-day increments, please know that our municipalities, those are people higher than us, can extend those state of emergencies. And I'll give you a great example. When we had the fires in Northern California last year, I believe it was it last year or the year before? I don't remember. They extended the state of emergency twice, both 6 months at a time. So that being said, remember, the state of emergency doesn't define an area, it defines a victim. Okay? So if they were affected by the state of emergency, that could be considered price gouging, and you could be looking at criminal charges and a fine. And nobody needs that, especially right now. All right, did that answer your question? Don't raise the rent. It's just too risky, in my opinion. We are gonna start seeing some courts opening up. We are getting in line for some evictions. How do I know this? Some of the moratoriums for non-evictions are not going to renew. I know they're not. They can't. Yay! So come October 5th, when our no eviction moratorium ends, they might not extend it again. And I'm hoping on that. Let's start getting rid of the people that were taking advantage of a situation rather than actually having a genuine need. Because those people always challenge us, don't they? Anybody have anything else they want to talk about? And let me just briefly talk about Assembly Bill 3088 very quickly. In a nutshell, what it says is a 3-day notice to pay rent or quit is no longer valid at least through the end of January of 2021. Okay? They'll most likely change the law before then to get rid of our 3-day notices altogether. And I'm not trying to shock you or freak you out. The reality is we've been lobbying and fighting against the 15-day notice to pay rent or quit for a couple years now. This COVID issue may be the one thing that helps that slide through, but we've been fighting and beating it so far. It is currently in effect now for September, going forward until the end of January of 2021. We are only to use a 15-day notice to pay rent or quit. And that 15 days is court days. So it doesn't count holidays, it doesn't count weekends. So that 15-day notice could turn into a 23-day notice at the blink of an eye, depending on how holidays and weekends fall during that expiration time. Also, with the new 15-day notice, you also must give the tenants a declaration to fill out, basically stating how they were affected by COVID, financially, yada, yada, in depth and detail. That declaration can be used in a court of law, and is the penalty for lying there is perjury, just so you know. So that comes with perjury charges. And the other thing that we need to do is, if we have a tenant that is delinquent now, we do need to serve them with the Tenant Protection Act disclosure by the end of this month. If they're not delinquent, you're not required to serve that, okay? So if you have somebody that's in there and they're paying the rent and everything's great, you don't need to notify them of this new Protection Act, only if they're delinquent. And what that does is it tells them, even if you're delinquent, you have to pay 25% of the rent or you could be evicted. So it's notifying them of what that new law is, okay? And then if we never tell them what the law is, how can we enforce the rules? So it's very important that we make sure that we're disclosing the new Tenant Protection Act, which is all part of AB 3088. But you don't have to notify the tenant of the program unless they are delinquent. So that's the only caveat there we were kind of hindering over last week. Does anybody have any questions, something they want to discuss?
I want to ask a little bit more about this 15-day to pay or quit. So just to kind of go through the timeline. So we serve a 15-day to pay or quit on the 5th or the 6th of the month after they haven't paid, right? But they can then write a declaration saying that they were affected by COVID, and our 15-day to pay or quit is null and void anyways, right?
Well, they're still required under the Tenant Protection Act to pay you 15% or 25% of the rent amount. If they fail to do that, you can evict them.
I see. So the 15 day to pay or quit is for that 25% mainly right now.
Bingo. If someone is trying to take advantage of the situation, this is going to kind of help filter out the garbage, if you will. Okay? The riffraff, the unlawful tenant trying to stake a claim, and I don't even want to say what's on my mind. The person that's trying to find every loophole and use against us, it's them.
Okay.
So
now, until when do they have to pay the 25%?
February 1st, 2021, they have to pay the 75% that's owed.
No, but the 25% that's owed right now, when do they have to pay that?
That has to be paid by like their normal rent, between their normal rent collection period.
So by nine. So is this by September's grace period?
September 1st.
So they're already, okay.
September 1st. They're required to pay 25% if they've been affected by COVID and file the declaration with you on how they've been affected, providing financials and or whatever is required.
I'm a little confused, Patty, because we're now sending out this notice and September 1st was 2 weeks ago.
I understand that. And again, we do not want to run into the fire with a new law coming out. We want to err on the side of caution, make sure we've talked to several legal counsel. We don't want to be the one that sets the example.
For sure. I'm just.
So if I think what he's asking is if the 15-day notice, if you served a 15-day notice, do they need to provide that 25% of the rent within the time of that 15-day notice before it expires?
Absolutely. If they fail to do that, contact your legal counsel. You most likely will be able to perform eviction.
I see.
So if we serve those notices
hold on, after the 5th of October, the courts are not taking summons and complaints until after the 5th of October, just so you know.
I see.
Could they extend it again? Absolutely. Do I see that happening? They're starting to give us all this stuff to get that going. So, hey, somebody else asked a question, but they typed it. Oh my goodness. Okay, I believe that the last day of the week that LA County or LA City had announced extending the eviction moratorium to October 31st, different from September 30th. No, honey, I'll explain to you in just a second. You did not read that wrong, okay? In Long Beach, where our properties base, is still possible for Long Beach City Council to extend the eviction moratorium. Absolutely. Regarding any governmental agency can extend the eviction moratorium at any time, okay? Example, moratorium means temporary law. In order to implement a temporary law, they have to give it an expiration date. They call it a sunset clause. So when that sunset clause comes close, if they're not ready yet, they'll just do another moratorium and extend that eviction. Is it possible for LA or Long Beach City Council to extend the moratorium? Absolutely. Any of the municipalities can do that at any time. Right now, as easy as I could explain this, we got a moratorium from the governor way back in March saying we have an order to shelter in place, all evictions are frozen, all foreclosures are foreclosing, right? Or frozen, no evictions, no foreclosures, and everybody shelter in place. When that happened, he gave the power to the municipalities, meaning the cities and the counties, to come up with their own moratoriums regarding when they would be open for eviction, regarding when the rent repayment time was. So the governor gave the cities the power to do that, or the county, depends. Regarding AB 3088, if the tenant does not pay the 25% of September rent and does not pay 25% through January 31st, I don't believe so. I believe you will be able to start eviction if they don't pay the 25% is how I read that in the bill and how I was explained to that by legal counsel. But please, again, remember, there is no case law on this. This is something that's new. My apartment building is in the city of LA, LARSO. I'm so sorry. So my understanding is that local municipality overrides the state and they don't have to pay the 25%. Is this correct? For LARSO, absolutely. They run on their own program and their own ship. So I would definitely contact your legal counsel of what you can and can't do. When I spoke to legal counsel, what I was told is we're gonna start seeing Riverside County opening up. We're gonna start seeing San Bernardino County start opening up. We're gonna start seeing Orange County start opening up. LA County will probably be the last one to open. LA City will be the hindrance on everybody. I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but they are the most concentrated with the LARSO, with BASTA, with everything, with all the tenants' rights advocates. It's all about LA. So I'm pretty sure that that'll be the last one that gets to reopen, get situated, and make that money start coming in our direction.
So do we not serve LA tenants with this notice?
I would contact your legal counsel to verify, but you do need to notify them of their rights. Absolutely. I mean, again, how can you enforce something if you don't notify them when the rules change? Make sense?
I know that you're saying that LA is exempt from this.
LARSO could be. I will find that out particularly, and I will actually shoot me out an email, send me a text message. I will find that answer for you and then get right back to you. But at this point, the way I look at LA, the city of LA, as being their own island. They have their own rules for all kinds of stuff. It's ridiculous, okay? But I do see that for the most part, we're gonna start seeing things opening up and getting back to normal, or as normal as we imagine them to be. I also have a feeling that we're gonna be wearing masks for a long time, you guys. I hate to say it, I'm sorry. I was telling a friend of mine, their kids were like, we're so sick of wearing masks. And I said, this may be the new future. You may be telling your grandkids about when you went to school and didn't have to wear a mask. You never know. But hey, things happen. In San Bernardino, if I have a tenant that hasn't paid since March, once the 15-day expires, can I evict for all the money or just for September? And not all the money, can we go after them later? Okay, so let me explain to you. From March to the end of August is that COVID rent loan that we have to carry in San Bernardino County for 6 months. Starting September 1st to January 31st of 2021, that becomes under AB 3088. They have to pay 25% of the rent. You have to disclose to them by the end of this month. They have to fill out the declaration stating how they were affected by COVID, and that declaration could be used against them in a court of law. So with all that being said, your break period ends August 31st. Any rents that were owed from March to August 31st is that COVID rent loan. San Bernardino County gave 6 months for tenants to repay that. So they don't owe that money for 6 months. LA County gave them 12 months to pay that money back. So they don't owe that money for 12 months. Orange County gave them 24 hours. God love them. I know everybody wants to buy property in Orange County right at the moment, but I hope that answered your question. I did have somebody that was going to join us today from a law firm. Let me see if they're on here and I can bug. They were pretty slammed. Nope, I don't have her on here. Let me see if I can invite her. I'm trying, you guys. Let's see if we can invite her and see what she has to say. She may be busy. Uh-oh, I got another question. Hold on. In San Bernardino, what happens if you did not serve the Tenant Protection Act? Okay, if they're delinquent now, you have to notify them of the Tenant Protection Act now, by the end of this month. If they become delinquent in October, then we'll address that in October. But as for now, it's only if they're delinquent currently that we have to notify them.
Patty?
Here she comes, here she comes. Miss Winter, I see that you logged on. As soon as you can you unmute yourself? We have some questions for you. And I know you're still logging on, Winter, so bear with us. Winter, are you here? Unmute, unmute. Okay, and now I forgot what we wanted to ask her, you guys. So I gotta look at our chats. Some courts are opening on 10/5. A normal eviction should take 5 months, once permits them to stay in the apartment till February, and then we would have to do cash for keys. All that money becomes due in February, according to 3088.
This is insane.
So the 75% becomes due. Winter, you're here. We have questions for you if you would be so kind. Does anybody remember exactly what we want to ask Winter? In San Bernardino, if I have a tenant that hasn't paid since March, once the 15-day expires, we can't evict for all the money owed, correct, Winter? We can only evict for money owed for September if they don't pay that 25%. Is that correct?
She's still muted.
She's texting though. She might be on the phone.
She wrote that she's here.
Okay. And then she just joined again, so she might have had some connection problems. Miss Winter, are you here?
Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry.
It's okay. We know you're human and you're dealing with a mess. So we had questions about AB 1482 and the new 15-day notice. I know that there's 2 sections on the 15-day notice, correct? One's for money owed from March to August, and then starting September, correct?
Yes.
And then we can only evict for September's rent at this time. We have to give that COVID rent loan for 6 months, correct?
It's a 15-day notice if they fill out the declaration for COVID. Then they
Okay.
have to pay 25% of the rent for September's rent, but they have until January 31st to pay that 25% of September's rent. And then if they're late for October, you have to send them another 15-day notice.
Oh my
And
goodness.
then they have until January 31st to pay 25% of October's rent.
Okay, and then when does the 75% of rent come due? All in February when the bill ends?
That's what we're thinking. I'm pretty sure that's what it says we can do, is that we can evict for all that in February or either go through small claims for it.
Right, and they
But I
are,
think it'd be easier to just evict in February for all the rest of the money that's owed.
if we don't lose the houses by to foreclosures by then, right?
Hopefully,
Okay,
not.
and then I have another one. It says, in the city of Los Angeles under LARSO, since the city of LA overrides the states, should we serve the notices and the declarations if the tenants are evicted or delinquent in the city of Los Angeles?
Yeah, their moratorium gets lifted on September 30th, so we can start filing unlawful detainers on October 5th for LA. So we can serve the notices now, but we just can't start the eviction process until October 5th.
And at any time between October 5th and January 31st of 2021, if they state in a courtroom that they were affected by COVID, the judge can then,
Dismiss the case.
right, and we have to start all over again.
So then what's
Yes.
I know, exactly.
It's
Say it
so
again. What's
unfortunate.
the point?
so what's the
Say
point?
it again. What's the point? I heard somebody in the background. What's the point? Again, we're starting to see some of the new laws come into place and how they affect us and how they won't affect us.
So do we go running around and giving everyone 15-day notices just so that, I mean, it's,
Well, I mean, there is that slight chance of them not filling out the declaration or not having an idea of what they can do to prevent the eviction from happening. So, I don't know. It's a gamble.
There's
really.
still a chance. There's
Yeah.
still a chance.
so long story short, we serve these 15 days to everyone.
If they're delinquent,
Yeah,
because most likely, God only knows.
But
once
if I'm understanding
January-
this correctly, if you serve them with the 15-day notice and they don't provide the COVID declaration, and then you proceed and then they show up in court and say, hey, I'm affected by COVID, then you're back to square one. Is that correct?
Bingo.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. They still
My
have
goodness.
protections. Yes.
My
But
goodness.
If you have any rent that was due from February and before that, then we can start the eviction process right now off a 3-day notice for February, January, December, November, October
Prior to
of
COVID.
2019. Prior to COVID, we can serve a 3-day notice to pay rent or quit right now and then start the unlawful detainer as soon as possible.
For rents due prior to March of this year.
Yeah, so
Bingo.
if they haven't paid since February, but they still owe you money now, we'll just serve a notice for February and that's it.
Oh, okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have that loophole we can utilize to our advantage.
So again, if there's rent due from February of this year, we can start an eviction with a 3-day notice.
Yeah, prior to March. Has to be before March.
Don't include March at all.
Don't include March through September at all. Just we can evict off February's rent and you can later go and get the rest of the money that they owe you in a small claims case.
Yes, and small claims is adjusting their max amount that you can get because of this COVID pandemic. So they used to cap out where you couldn't go if it was over $10,000. They are making an exception for rent monies owed during COVID for the small claims cases. It seems like any UD is going to be a losing action, wasting time, no rent money with court extensions and dismissal. Yeah, I agree with you. Like I said, we're starting to see some of the laws come into place, which tells me there's light at the end of the tunnel. Are all the details worked out yet? Absolutely not. Does it benefit a tenant more than it benefits an owner? Absolutely. Welcome to California. Some things will never change. So we do need to keep in mind that although they're implementing this system, maybe we're not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I know our legal counsel is still trying to err on the side of caution as well. And I'm going to say this, forgive me, cash for keys may be your best option. Just saying, if you need somebody out of there, that might be a better approach rather than the legal system. I think
nuisance, a police report, or owner moving back in.
Okay, so there's your reasons, you guys, that you can evict right now and get possession and it not be COVID related. Is there a nuisance, a police report, them? I think I read something, Winter, and correct me if I'm wrong, if they're failing to allow entry. Is that correct?
No.
That's not correct.
What about?
I don't think so.
I think I saw that on the bill. So I'll double check, like I said, you guys, and
Yeah,
we'll
I'm not
have
sure about that.
a whole powwow next Wednesday on it as well.
Or
But
if they
again,
have a dog that they're not allowed to have, like no pets on the lease, then we can serve a 3-day covenant. And then what we do is if they didn't get rid of the dog or anything, then we serve a 3-day quit. You have to serve 2 notices with the 3-day covenant notice now.
just so everybody knows, in my opinion, it's always been that way. When you serve a covenant notice and they don't react, and you serve a second covenant notice and they don't react, you need to do a quit behind it. That's the process and procedure. Okay? When they don't react to being able to correct, you have to end it by that 3-day quit. So what Winter is saying is we are required to do that 3-day quit now. I thought we always were. That's something I always implemented. I didn't just serve covenants and then evict on them. I always did the 3-day quit before I did the eviction on it. So she's saying that is now a definite requirement if you're doing based on a nuisance or something along those lines.
Yeah, we can also serve a notice for unauthorized occupants, like somebody living in the house that isn't on the lease. We can start eviction process on that now too.
Okay. That's good to know.
Just
Trying to give you options.
Can I review for a second? So that was a nuisance police report. Our owner must
Wait,
move
no, I
back
just
in.
did. I have it.
Just kidding. Yeah, but I want all of this.
Is that correct?
Hold on, somebody else is talking to her at the same time. It happens a lot at law firm, trust me. Winter.
Patty,
Yes.
you were saying a 3-day to quit. You're talking about a 3-day to cure or quit?
Okay, when you do a 3-day cure or quit, you may do a second attempt at the cure or quit. You need to do a 3-day quit behind that, because what you're saying is fix this or move out, fix this or move out. Look, I gave you 2 options to fix this or move out. Now I'm telling you, you gotta go.
So there's a form called 3-day quit. I've never seen that or heard.
It's called an incurable breach of covenant.
Okay.
So you have a curable and an incurable. The incurable gives them 3 days get out. Okay.
Does this apply? Does this apply for LA County RSO? Can we serve a 3-day quit if we have a tenant out of control? You know, fighting, screaming and hollering in the middle of the night, all
There
these
has
sorts
to
of
be
things.
incident reports or police reports, and then we can serve a 3-day covenant off that.
A covenant or just quit?
Well, you got to start with the
Covenant.
covenant, sir.
You have to start with
You
the
got to give them
covenant.
the
Okay.
opportunity to correct. If they fail to correct, then you can do the quit behind it and start the eviction process.
And that also accounts for rent control areas.
Yes,
This-
they
this-
can't
I'm
be a
sorry, I'm
nuisance.
wrong. We're wrong. We can, if there's a police report or incident report like that, like people fighting, we can just serve the 3-day quit. And
3-day
evict
quit.
off of that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we can do that in LA County where there's rent control?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. You can't have a nuisance. And here, let me explain this to you guys just so we're all on the same page. If you have one couple in an 8-unit apartment complex that are fighting all the time and ripping each other's heads off, that's disrupting the right to quiet enjoyment for your other 7 residents. If you don't do something about this person that's disrupting all 7 residents, all these 7 residents can then turn and put a lawsuit on you for failing to do something about this problem. Does that make sense? So as a landlord, you have to address this so this doesn't come after you. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. But yes, we should definitely be able to do things on a nuisance, destruction of property.
But
would
let me
be
ask this. Are we gonna say I serve my 3-day notice to quit and then I file my lawsuit? Am I gonna get a summons issued, or am I gonna have to go and do in ex parte to get the summons issued on the UD complaint
You'll get the summons issued with the complaint.
without having to do an ex parte?
Yes.
That's very good to know. Thank you very much.
Hey, I love our special guests, you guys. Come on.
Go Winter.
Yes, yay, go Winter. Just so you guys know, you can contact Winter at Fast Eviction Service if you need help with anything like that. She'd be more than happy to help you. If you are a member, a paid member of Widget's Way, they do offer sometimes a discount depending on your level of membership. So just another perk that you have by being a member of Widget's Way, and they will give you free legal advice on the phone all the time. That's what they're there for. So just good to know. Okay, you guys. Winter, is there anything else that you have for us or can foresee that may be helping us? Are we aware of any more bills that they're trying to pass that are coming through at this time?
No,
As
as far as we know, AB 3088 is the only thing. We haven't heard of them changing it anytime soon, so hopefully they don't change it and make it worse for the landlords. But I think this is going to stick. I think I said everything that I know.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No,
girl.
you're fine.
I have one more question about the 3-day quit. If you serve that and you file your lawsuit, is there any subsequent documents that you must file with it in order to let the court know that this is a, non-money eviction and it's for nuisance or, to protect the quiet enjoyment of the other tenants?
Winter,
Yes.
I'm gonna interject here just a little bit. That 3-day notice to quit is where all your teeth are. Okay, so you
Right.
can't just write, you have 3 days, get out, you're a nuisance. What you need to put on that 3-day notice to quit is all the drama, all the
Okay.
detail, police reports, incident reports, dates, times, witnesses, the whole story. If your page of your 3-day notice to quit is 3 pages long, so be it. Because
Okay.
that's what you can argue in court. That's what your attorney can argue in court. If it's not on that notice, you can't argue it in court. So you want the whole story there. Everything that happened, the drama, the juicy details of what they said when they cussed you out. I mean,
Right.
all of it. The
Right.
foul language needs to be on the notice, okay?
Okay.
Also, there is a new document that we have to file with our cases now. It is called the Unlawful Detainer Supplemental Cover Sheet, and it basically has a checkbox that says, is this due to non-payment of rent? And you check yes or no.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there somewhere we can get a summary of all this stuff?
Fast Evictions has an eviction flow chart, a new eviction flow chart, and I'll work on writing a 3088 said simply. How's that?
Too many if this, then that. I don't go well with those. I need like more like.
I understand. And again, it's because they gave us this law. It has some loopholes in it. It's got a lot of moving parts. It's kind of like AB 1482. It's got a lot of moving parts. And I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot more laws written that way going forward. Is everything that comes out is going to have a clause of this, a clause of that. If it's this, if it's that, we're going to see a lot more of that. Ed, please don't hang your head that way. I know you're frustrated, and I am too. It's like there's a little bit of light at the tunnel, but not a lot.
No, the problem is, you know what the problem is? That this light in the end of the tunnel, for me, it's a headache. Why? Because all the owners hear this, right? And they're like, I heard this and I heard that, and I have to learn it all and teach it to them. And I can't understand it myself. It's very difficult.
Right. And if we don't understand it, it makes it really hard for us to educate our owners and our landlords. So maybe what I'll do is think of writing it simply, or maybe even coming up with, if I write it in an article as simply as it could possibly be, that's something you could give to your owners and explain to them. Yeah, and I know that's going to help, and encourage them to find as much funding as they can through programs for landlords, and run like their hair's on fire to go get those addressed, because when that money's gone, it's gone.
Okay.
We have a tenant that did not pay February rent due to a job layoff, and he did not qualify for unemployment due to disabled status the year before. Thus, he is COVID impacted since March, August through September. We have a month-to-month lease agreement for a one-bedroom apartment, not for the garage, since it was a separate rental. So he stores his non-working car in the garage. What notice do we serve him to vacate the garage? And we will deal with the apartment monies on the 15-day rules. You said he owed rent in February. You could do a 3-day notice to pay rent or quit for February. If he doesn't pay February's rent, you can start eviction on him come October 5th, just for February's rent, and then go back later, sue him in small claims court for the money that's owed from March through whenever he vacates. That answer that question?
We might be able to start that right away. We might not have to wait for October 5th to file that. Yeah, I think we can just proceed with it right away.
Okay, and then the garage, we would need to see the contract that the garage is written on. And I'll give you an example. If the garage is an entirely separate contract, and it is a license to rent the garage and not a lease, which falls under landlord-tenant law, it all depends on how that contract is written, of how you can enforce it. You have no paperwork on it, then it's going to fall under landlord-tenant litigation, most likely. You have to have a separate agreement for garage rents if you're renting them separately, and you don't want to call it a rental agreement because that makes it sound like housing. It's more like a license. Example, you go to the airport, you park your car for a week while you're on vacation. You don't have a rental agreement. You have a license agreement. Okay? So usually those types of things go on license agreements and not rental agreements, just saying, because then you don't have to follow landlord-tenant law, other laws kick in, and they're much, they got bigger teeth, so to speak. Okay, oh, we got more questions. Hang on, let me see. Okay, everybody's okay. Anybody have anything else they want to discuss?
I think I just want to mention a few minutes ago, just a summary in terms of people getting out. I think I wrote down nuisance, police report, and then the other one was a owner moving back in. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Winter did say that, yes. So just so you guys know, when this all first happened, we had people buying houses and owners anticipating to move into them because they were going to occupy the home, and we could not evict the tenants so that the owner could move into their own house they just bought. What Winter is saying is now that's being lifted.
Okay. That was September 1st?
She said October 5th is when the courts will open for that. So that's most likely when we'll see that start to play.
Nice. Thank you.
I definitely talked to Winter about getting a 30-day to terminate rockin' and rollin' ASAP.
Okay.
All right.
Smile, Ed.
I just
Come
got
on.
back from 5 weeks of not being here, trying to catch up, and there's the whole.
I came in last night from 3 months of not being here, and I have to say, you guys, it's a little smoky in this state. Just saying. It's hot. It's smoky. I'm just like, oh, maybe we'll burn all the tenants out of California. You never know.
Especially if they want to-
Hey, quiet.
All right.
All right. Anybody have anything else?
I have a question regarding a tenant who complains about other tenants' noises. No other tenant besides this one complains. And he's taken me to court a few times on it. And we sort of just talked it out, except for one time I didn't show up and he won the case. But is there something I can do about this tenant who constantly complains about others and no one else has a complaint? I have a 7-unit apartment and he's on the ground floor and there's one above him and 2 on either side.
What city is this in?
Oh, forgot to tell you that. It's RSO LA City.
How did I know that was coming? So maybe, and this is just me talking out loud, maybe the other tenants in the building are being confronted by this person. Maybe this isn't the only way he's disrupting the right of quiet enjoyment for the other residents. Maybe he needs to be served a notice that his complaints are affecting the rights of quiet enjoyment of others since they're frivolous complaints.
Yeah.
I definitely talk to legal counsel. I'd get on the phone with Winter and her team and come up with a scenario that works so that you could get that out of there, because I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Fortunately, when I had it happen, this person was confronting other residents, and that's a big no-no. So so when they do something else that starts affecting the rights, the quiet enjoyment of the other neighboring residents, you can serve him notice. He needs to stop harassing them, knocking on their doors, talking to them. That's the loophole I used to turn that around and actually evict.
He doesn't confront them directly. He comes to me most of the time. However, the tenant above, he has like pounded on the ceiling with a broomstick or something like that.
Dates, times, witnesses. 3-day curable breach of covenant for affecting the rights of quiet enjoyment for other neighboring residents.
Okay. Sounds
Okay.
good. All right.
I mean, I hate to say it, but you got to document every time
Yes.
it happens.
Well,
You
yeah.
got to build that paper trail. It's the only way we can all work together to get the trash out.
Well, he's been there since before 1978.
Well,
That's
you know, and unfortunately, some things affect people differently than others. I had a senior in a senior community that was harassing the neighbor downstairs because she didn't have any above her, saying that they were rolling a bowling ball in their living room and making all this noise. She was right next door to the boiler room. She went as far to go downstairs and tell the neighbor downstairs in a senior community that her family couldn't visit her anymore because they made too much noise. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, I had to serve her with affecting the rights of quiet enjoyment of other people. She doesn't have the right to control who comes and goes. She doesn't have those rights. And we have to squash that kind of behavior. Otherwise, it just continues to grow and manifest. So that's the way we did that. And I actually had to take this woman into the boiler room, and we waited about 7 minutes before it to cycle. And then she heard it and said, "That's the noise." And I said, "And it's not your neighbor." Did you want to relocate to another unit that isn't next to the boilers, ma'am? Because that's what gives you hot water, to the whole building.
Right.
We're not going to change that. It can't go away. It can't get any quieter. It is what it is. Would you like to relocate away from that noise? So sometimes it's just a conflict between personalities. Sometimes, and then, you know, once they piss you off, it's like a scorned parent. "Don't look at me. Don't look at me. Don't," you know, it just causes all that unnecessary drama, and it
He's
manifests.
complained no matter, so the tenants have changed over time, but he still complains. You know, it doesn't matter who else is there.
Right to quiet enjoyment of affecting other residents when he knocks on their doors, confronts them directly.
He doesn't do that. Other than the broomstick, he doesn't talk, because he doesn't want to confront them. He wants me to confront them.
I
Which
understand
I
that.
do tell him. I do tell them that he complains, and they tell me they're just living their lives. They're not doing anything unusual.
This person also may not have anything better to do.
Yeah, yes.
I get it. I get it. I understand. And they may want to try to build a lawsuit, as someone commented, to sue for money. The reality is, every time he bangs on that ceiling and those people tell you, you need dates, times, and witnesses, and serve him a curable breach of covenant, because we can't be banging on the walls for our neighbors to shut. That's not, no,
Right.
not how that works.
Well, I've been trying to get them to do that, but I think they're just tired of it. They just pound back now. The upstairs people, they just pound themselves back, you know, and just, they said, you know, we tried being quiet. It just, we're being overly quiet and we're scared to live. So they said they just let it go. I said, we're just living our normal lives now.
Right, and I understand. I could throw something at you if you really want to address this problem, is if you temporarily hire a management company to manage the property for you, then all those complaints go to them, and let them do their job. Let them create that paper trail to prove the nuisance. Take some of that off your plate. Let them introduce to all the neighbors, "Hey, I'm the new management company. All your complaints and concerns come to me." And then they may be able to step in and help you filter that out. Once you get that all dialed in, if you want to take back over management, by all means do that. But sometimes we need the help of our professional management staff just to get things regrouped for us.
I like that.
Okay?
I like
Definitely
that. Matter of
something.
fact, I was thinking of doing something like that anyway, aside from this one tenant, but he's the main reason.
I understand, but for 10% of your rents collected a month or less, is it worth the expense to not have to deal with anything? Right. Yes.
Yes, you're right.
When it is affecting you personally, yes, I agree.
Well,
so
you're giving me incentive now. I appreciate it.
Hey, definitely something you may want to consider, okay?
Right. Right.
Let it be a them problem and not a you problem.
Thank you. I'm going to look into that.
I definitely would. And be careful if you guys are talking to management companies. Remember, they're an extension of you. So if your management company does something illegal, immoral, or unethical, you as the landlord could be held accountable for that. So you don't want to hire the cheapest fly-by-night place you can find, because the chances of them being licensed, know all the fair housing laws, etc., it just may put you in a worse position than you were in to begin with. You want to make sure that you're hiring someone that is a licensed agent working under a broker, has a broker license there. You got to make sure that those things, and I have some key questions for property owners that are looking to hire management that you may want to ask. So if you're interested in those questions, just shoot me out an email and I'll shoot you out my question list. Like, hey, when do I get paid? How do I get paid? I mean, there's things we want to know as owners if you're going to be managing my property. So it's basically some interview questions. You know, when's the last time you updated your fair housing training? Things like that, just so that you know exactly who you're hiring.
Now, I have only 7 units. Are management companies willing to do that? That are, you know, that are the ones that are better prepared, I would think, would be handling much larger units. No? Okay, I'm learning.
We do,
Let
property
me,
management.
I knew Ed would speak up at one point or another. Hi, I'm Ed with Hawk Management.
We're with Hawk Management. We do single family homes, 7 units, 15 units, 30 units, whatever you want.
500 units. I mean, usually a management company, you don't want the one that strictly does multifamily properties for what you're doing, because they're going to talk to you about on-sites and all this stuff that you may not necessarily need. So you want to get with a management company that has a book of business that's diverse. They do single family, multifamily, and things of that nature. That way you know that they're a little bit more well-rounded. You definitely want to deal with someone that's a licensed real estate brokerage. If they're not licensed and you have less than 16 units in a multifamily, they're practicing real estate without a license, or could be considered practicing real estate without a license. Let me not speak in definite terms. But as a real estate broker myself, I could tell you they can't do that, but a lot of them do. They think that they're gonna make money why they're not doing so great right now, and they're just gonna hop in and start doing this stuff because they know everything. And the reality is they don't, and now you're in a bigger problem than you originally were. So you definitely wanna make sure they're licensed sales agents, they have a broker involved, they're a reputable company. An office is always a good sign. Ed's sitting in his, nodding his head. You want to ask when their last fair housing training was. There's key questions you want to ask just so that you have a little bit more confidence. If they're not licensed, you don't want to talk to them, okay? You're done. Conversation is over. If they are not a licensed sales agent that you are speaking to, and mind you, they still have to be a licensed agent if they're just the new accounts representative, because they are the first point of contact in a real estate transaction. So that being said, you want to make sure you're working with licensed real estate agents and that there's a broker involved in that chain somewhere. Okay?
All right, I will send you an email. and I'll ask for Ed Huckman, is it?
You got it. Hawk Management. Okay. I'd be more than happy. Oh, look, he's giving you his email at the bottom there. God love him.
Oh, where is that? Oh, I see. Okay, got it. Okay.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
And just so everybody is aware, if an owner comes to me and they're looking for somebody to manage the property, I do tend to only refer people that use my service, because my theory is when you're in trouble, at least you call me and I can point you in the right way. So it makes me feel more comfortable for my client when I turn you over to somebody that also uses my service, because I know if they get in trouble, they're going to call me.
Okay.
So that's the way I look at that. I know it's kind of selfish, but it keeps me in the loop of helping protecting your property.
Plus, you know who we are. I mean,
I know exactly who it is. I've worked with you for how many years now?
I don't know, maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah, we do everything unethically, and no, I'm kidding. But.
No, and I mean, I could go out on a limb here and even tell you that he's been involved with apartment associations for the smaller book of business and the mom and pop kind of property management. He's been involved with those apartment associations. Weren't you the president of one of those at one time, Ed?
I'm currently the vice president of NARPM, and I'm going to be the president next year of our chapter.
See, so he's extremely active in staying current with current affairs involving the industry and is actively involved in what's going on a day-to-day, which is also very important. You don't want somebody that managed property 40 years ago that tells you, I know all the rules. I did that 40 years ago. Well, they only know the rules from 40 years ago. Things
Right.
changed.
Well,
Just a
maybe
bit.
I won't. Maybe I won't send you an email after all. I'll just contact Ed.
There you go.
I gave you my phone number as well. I gave you my phone number as well, so you have it.
Okay.
Okay?
There you go. There you go.
All
I
right.
do. I try to keep us all connected in our own little ways.
Thank you, Patty.
No problem. If nobody has anything else for me, I'm going to call this a day. You guys get back to work and we'll see you next week.
Patty.
Thank you, Patty.
Okay,
Patty,
we've got one
Patty,
more.
it's
Yes.
Nick. Yeah, I just
Yes.
want, I think I need to talk to you, I think, on some stuff one-on-one when you have some time.
Okay, why don't you give me a call later this afternoon about 3 o'clock?
Okay. If not today, tomorrow, what time? The morning's open for me.
How early in the morning?
Well, not that early.
I flew in last night. I still
No, no.
have jet lag.
You know what? And it's nothing pressing or pending, but I just need you to listen to a few things I'm going through right now. That's all.
Sure, give me a call tomorrow. We'll talk then. The morning
Okay,
should be fine.
Okay, or I'll shoot for 3 o'clock today, depending on what I've got going on.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you so
Perfect.
much. Thank you.
All right, you guys have a great week. If anybody needs anything, feel free to reach out to me. That's why I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for the plug-in. Appreciate it.
Hey.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Alex, give me a call.